Hey everybody, this is Bradley Benner. This is we're going to be coming on here in just a minute. There's Ted. What's up, buddy?
How's it going?
Good, man. We talk about cutting it close, huh?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, man, I pulled the webinar up like 5 minutes ago, and then I realized that I didn't have your contact details, and Chris G isn't on, and I was going, oh shit. So everybody that's on or jumping on the webinar here in just a moment, we're trying to get our bearings because we literally just got started now. There was no preparation, so bear with us. All right, so Ted, I guess, are you ready for your presentation and everything?
I'm good to go.
Well, I'm glad you are, because this really caught me off guard, man. So, all right, cool. Let me, first of all, the comments are off on the page. Let me get everything situated real quick, guys, and then we're going to, we'll turn comments on, and then Ted's going to get into his presentation. And Ted, I'm going to shoot over to you via email the events page so that you can see the questions and stuff as well, in case you need to.
Okay.
Looks like the comments are on, so let me just double check it. Okay, yeah. I had to use Gmail search to find your Gmail. All right, let me send this over to you real quick.
Post it in what do you call it, in Slack, so I can look at the questions too. There won't be any questions in Vaughn?
Why would it be in Vaughn?
I don't know, because people will go in there.
No, it's only on this Google event page. It should be,
okay,
as far as I know. As far as I know.
Right.
All right, let me shoot this over to you. All right, guys, I got really caught off guard trying to hunt down Ted. So, but we got it. We got it. So no worries. All right, cool. The event page is in Slack now, and I just shot that over to you, Ted.
Oh, good.
And I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick introduction, guys. Sorry for the the hectic, being kind of disorganized to begin with. But we've got Ted on. He's the developer of Cora, which is an amazing software. We did a demo for our mastermind a week or two ago, and it's fabulous. There's a lot of people that were kind of blown away with the amount of data that it pulls back. And Ted's going to give you a really good presentation on how it works and why it's a valuable tool. It doesn't do SEO for you. It's not an optimization tool per se. It's a measurement tool, and I'm going to let him explain what it is, but it's very, very powerful. And I see a lot of potential in it as well. And we started testing it a little bit ourselves. I know Marco could speak about it as well, but I'm going to let Ted get right into it, guys, because we want to respect everybody's time. So with that, Ted, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And then I will set up a presentation. Okay, can you see that all right?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So I have a measurement tool, and if you saw the last video we did, I explained it one way, but today I'd like to try explaining it a different way, because sometimes, explaining things in a different way can help you understand better. You can see the same concepts, the same events from a different angle. And to do that, I want to start off by looking at Google, and specifically for figuring out what a relevant hit is, what a match is. And as of late, if you're in the SIA, you'll probably be aware that I've been debating people on what should count as a match and what shouldn't. And there's this concept that there's this industry standard match that SEOs use for things like keyword density and stuff like that. And the main problem I have with the concept of an industry standard match is that it often doesn't represent what Google's doing. And that's the thing we're trying to measure, is what Google's doing. So I built Cora based on what I saw Google doing. And so my use of the term match is defined by what I saw. And so, for example, if you type in the keyword test, we'll see that Google finds the singular form, uppercase, lowercase letters, doesn't matter, so it's case insensitive, plural form. It finds the gerund form. And when I saw that, when I put in test and it matches testing, and I made these yellow, but Google made them bold. I just made them yellow so you could see them better. When I saw Google matched on the word testing, when I typed in test, that instantly made me think, okay, they're doing some basic natural language processing. They're doing word stemming. They know testing is a conjugation of the verb test. And so they found the match that way. But they're clever because they're looking at the tense too. And if you do this test in Google, you can scroll all the way down, the top 100 results, and it won't match the past tense. So it gets the singular, plural form and the gerund form, but it won't do the past tense verb. So there's some complexity going on to what they're matching. When I did a different example of Seattle plumber, again, they found singular plural form, and they found the gerund form of the word plumber. So they went from the noun plumber, found the word stem, and then found the gerund for the verb. That's pretty impressive. So they knew cross the noun to the verb, they were able to do that match. When I did a search for Seattle attorneys, they knew that lawyer was a synonym match. So they have a thesaurus behind the scenes, and they're doing synonym matches. So when somebody tells me that I'm not using an industry standard definition for match, like using the exact search term match for keyword density, my reply is, well, Google doesn't use that industry standard definition. Google is doing it this way. It's using plural, singular form. It's doing word stemming to find different conjugations. It's using the synonym lookups, and it's being smart about whether or not it needs to use past or present tense. And so when we try to find matches within text on your web page, we have to consider all these possibilities. Otherwise, our match counts won't reflect what Google's doing. So the way my software works is you enter in a keyword and you hit the Get Data button, and the software will get the top 100 results for that search term. It'll then search through the source of all those web pages for over 520 online and offline SEO factors. It'll measure them all, and it'll put the measurement data into a spreadsheet. And throughout that spreadsheet, you'll see a lot of factors saying, the number of matches and sentences, the number of matches and headings, things like that. And whenever you see that word matches, unless it's specifically called out to a different type of match, it means all of these words that Google considers relevant hits. The software goes and collects all of these relevant hit words from the top 100 results and uses all of those words for doing the match counts. So, for example, I typed in the search for gift baskets for men, and I ran the software, and I got the output in a spreadsheet. And this screenshot that looks like digital noise, this is actually zooming out on the measurement data all the way to 10% in the Excel spreadsheet. So each column out here where you see the yellow digital noise, those are the measurements for each result in the top 100 results. So each column is that result's factor measurements. Each row is a different factor for 520 some factors. And up here where there's the orange says it's a statistically significant correlation. So those orange ones are the ones that appear to influence your rankings. The big gray bar is the average measurements by page for the factor. So if we zoom in here, we can see the orange for our factor measurements. We can see the gray bar here for the average measurements. And let me zoom in even more. Oh. So now we can see each factor as we zoom in. We can see the correlation coefficient, so we know how strong of a correlation it is. We can see the page one average, the value for result one. And then over here, I annotated my website, which was result 14. And the way we use the software is once we have all that vast amount of data, you start hiding the rows and columns that you're not interested in. And you reduce it down to a small, more manageable brick of data. So I got rid of results 15 through 100 by selecting them and right-clicking and saying hide. And the same thing for results 2 through 13. I just selected them and right-click hide. And so I got it down to just the things that appeared to influence rankings, just my site, the page one average, and result one. And then I highlighted all of the factor measurements where I was either below result one or the page one average. These red ones over here, those are all the factors my page is deficient in. And I can see exactly how deficient my page is because I have my factor measurement and I can see number one right next to it. So I know I don't have competitive parity, and I know exactly how much tuning on a factor I need to do to be competitive for where I want to be. So with that, we did a couple examples that were given to me this morning, and I was running through them. And I did them before the show primarily because it can take about 4 to 10 minutes to pull the data. And then it takes a few more minutes to format and condition the data for a presentation so that I'm not showing you guys 50,000 data points, over streaming video. So we did it in advance to spare you the time. And so for this keyword, we can see that the remodeling contractor, Austin, Texas. So we can see some of those behaviors that we saw before. So there's a plural form right there for contractors. Contracting, there's the gerund. So we see it happening there. Let's see, Texas, so it knew the full name instead of just the abbreviation. So there's a synonym lookup. So we're seeing the same rules at play that we saw before with our previous definition.
There's another interesting, I just wanted to jump in for a second, but there was another interesting synonym, renovation.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, another, there it is. Another synonym that it found and put in there. So it's important when you talk about like over optimizing a page and keyword stuffing and keyword density and match counts, you have to go all the way back to your definition of what a match is. And with Cora, I try to use what Google's using, what Google's showing me that they're doing. And I get very leery when people tell me I need to use, only exact matches, because that's not what I see Google doing. So in the results, I would then go find our website. And for this example, they wanted me to look at bluediamondremodeling.com, which was result number 42. Oh, let me go back. Another thing I see right away in the link text, this is from the SERPs. I just pulled all the search result data into the result sheet. So the link text in the SERPs, Blue Diamond Remodeling, no spaces, and document. Nobody else in the results does that. So I don't know if this is supposed to mean something to people, but I already see a problem with the title. So for this search, these were all of the match words that Google made bold in the search results. So the software pulls those out, puts them into the output file as well. So when we say matches, we're talking about any number or combination of these words. It's what Google considered a match. And so I did the same thing. I got the gigantic spreadsheet of 50,000 measurements, and I reduced it down to the ones that were statistically significant with the orange, so the strongest correlations, and just the sites, or just the columns we're interested in. So result 42, which is the example, result 1, which is where we want to be, and the page 1 average, because sometimes the page 1 average is tougher than result 1. And over here, I added 2 columns to give us our deltas. So this is the difference between our result and the page 1 average, and this one is the difference between our result and the result 1. So this is the degree of tuning we would need to do in order to be competitive for the factor. And so the top 2 matches, I highlighted what I considered would be the low-hanging fruit for tuning this page. Top 2 are basically the match counts on the page. So the first one's the body matches. That's the number of keyword matches inside the HTML body tag. And the source matches is the number of matches anywhere in the HTML source. And so we can see that the page 1 average is well into the hundreds, and our usage of the search term on page is a couple dozen. So I'm going to go into some of these ones I've highlighted in more detail. Let's jump to one. We can come back in a bit. So I also create charts for every factor. So there's a charts sheet in the Excel output file. And you can look, let me go back and show you. There's this factor ID, and there's a little code, CP470. So when you go to the charts page, you can do a search in Excel and search for CP470. It'll take you right to that factor's chart. There's 520 charts, so you're going to have to search for them. But we can see here page 10, page 9, page 8, page 7. So on the x-axis, we have the page number on Google for the results. And on the y-axis, we have the average factor measurement by page. So when you go from page 10 heading towards page 1, you can see a trend. And that trend is it sharply goes up as you approach number 1. And it goes up in a pretty steep fashion. So when you're looking at the source matches, so the number of matches in the HTML source for the page, the average on page 1 is 812 matches. We had, if we go back and look, we had 25 matches. So we are nowhere near competitive parity for this. So 25 matches is way down here. We were out on page 4. So yeah, we're down here, but where we want to be is over here. So clearly there's some disparity there. What's also important to know is that most academic people in document indexing and search use an algorithm called TF-IDF for determining relevance to a given search term. And what TF-IDF stands for is term frequency inverse document frequency. And term frequency is exactly what it sounds like. It's how frequently do you use a term on the page. And I see term frequency correlating with results very often. And so much so that I believe Google is using some variation of the term frequency algorithm for determining search relevance to a given search term. And so the websites that have a term frequency, because they're using the terms a lot more frequently, they're going to be more relevant. And we kind of see that through all the different keyword niches, all the different trials we've done. It's a very common pattern that term frequency relevance is a governing factor. And the other thing to consider before you run out and keyword stuff your pages, please don't do that. I know Clint is probably watching, and he wants to recover, everyone who does the wrong thing after I make these statements. But just note that when you see match counts this high, you need to go investigate what those people are doing to get the match counts that high without getting penalized and without scaring away their customers. And so I'll show you a few of what I found for our search term. So a lot of the leading pages show a directory, a number of different contractors. And so they'd have a big long list, and those each summary would then use the keywords. Some of the pages were using absolute URLs and were working the keywords into the URLs, and we're getting lots of match count that way. Some of them had offers on page, and they were working the keywords into their offers. Articles and other promoted content on page was another trick. Frequently asked questions, another way. Reviews. And reviews and comment threads are an interesting way to do it because they should grow over time. So as you get more reviews and longer threads of comments on a topic, your match counts for those topics should keep going up and up. Featured content. This was a project wall. They were simply describing the kinds of projects they had in the system. And then, lists. Everybody loves a list. So, with that, keep in mind that there are ways to get your match count up that are appropriate, that wouldn't get you punished. And it's important just to go research what they're doing before you jump in and keyword stuff your pages. This factor is for the number of matches and sentences on a page. So I parse out all the sentences on each of the top 100 results, and then we count all the match words that appear in the sentences. So again, from page 10 heading towards page 1, there's a clear trend, and that is more seems to be better when you get to page 1. And so we're looking at the correlation. It's a strong correlation. Tune matches and web page sentences with a value of at least 85. So that means we want at least 85 matches in web page sentences. Here's an example. So one of the sites that had that list of contractors, this is one sentence on their page. It was the description sentence for the contractor. And they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 match words in that one sentence. So 5 matches in a sentence. And I bet most of the descriptions for these contractors are going to have pretty good match density in those sentences. So when you see you need 85 matches and sentences, it doesn't mean you need 85 sentences. It just means you need 85 keyword matches in sentences. On-page title matches. It's not as steep of a correlation, but it is consistent. So the number of matches in your title tag, we can see that there's a sweet spot that's in between 3 and 4. What's interesting, in the US data centers, almost never see match counts and title tags go to 5. I have to go to international data centers to find examples of that. So there might be a rule that you don't want to go over 4 matches, but you know, it's just an interesting bit of data on the title tags. And these are the link text from the search results that usually comes from your title tag, unless, of course, your title tag wasn't sufficient quality for Google and Google rewrites it for you on your behalf at those points. But most of the time it comes from your title tag. So here we can see in these examples, remodeling contractors, Austin, Texas, remodeling contractors, Austin, Texas, Austin, Texas, remodeling contractors. So you got a lot of examples here of 2, 3, 4 matches. And this is how they're doing it. You don't have to repeat your exact search term phrase 3 or 4 times. No, it's any combination of those match words. And that can be done in a really natural way. This is our next example. Well, let me chime in and say, with the presentation up, I only have one monitor today. If there are questions, please interrupt me, let me know, because I can't see them with the presentation up.
Everything is good for now.
Okay. All right, so this is the second example that was asked for. So pool builders, Memphis, Tennessee. And let me go ahead and ask you guys, was this one a ringer that you threw at me to try to see if I, see what's going on? Or is it just one that there's a legitimate need for?
I gave that to you because that's an industry I'm researching right now for potential work. But I wasn't for a ringer, but I'm anxious to hear what you have to say why.
Okay, because this one is a great example of what happens when you hit weird conditions with the software. So I don't see these all the time. And in fact, the last time I saw one of these, I was looking at an embeds exploit from Marco, and it looked very similar to that. And so that's why I was thinking, oh, this might be a ringer.
No mentions of that.
I won't say anything else, but this one had some similarities, so it had me wondering. So here's the results. So the search term pool builders, Memphis, Tennessee. So we see similar matches, pool builders. We see it conjoined. See the full state name, not just the abbreviation. Singular, plural form. So all the standard stuff we saw before. Here's the match words from the top 100 results. And I also thought it was interesting, more proof that it's not just simple word stemming, but some actual natural language processing at play. It didn't word stem builders to build and then include building and buildings, which would be incorrect. It knew not to do that. So it's a fairly sophisticated thing Google's doing here to get these correct. And that's why I think when Google makes them bold, they're telling you something very important and very special about the result set. They're telling you what they consider to be relevant hits, and buildings didn't make the list here. So the website that was asked to be looked at just happens to be #1 on Google for the search term. So I'm like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do with this other than kind of look at how they did it? So I did the exact same thing, pulled the data, looked at #1, and everything they have was below the competition or the page 1 average. They didn't lead in any factor. And when I saw Marco's exploit, well, it makes sense that that would happen because there was an exploit in play, and the exploit worked, and they ranked above things they shouldn't be ranking above using the exploit. And so this makes me think that there might be an exploit in play. So when I saw this, where they didn't lead on anything, it's like, okay, maybe this is one of those exploit examples. So I looked at some of the other stuff going on. So I looked at some of the off-page that didn't correlate. And sometimes what happens is there's so little competition on a page on a search term that they're not really driving things up for the algorithm to decide on. That things just kind of rank for a weird reason because the competition is so low. So I thought that might be what's happening, because it is kind of a long tail search term. And so I looked at the off page to see if there might be something happening there. And the Hrefs rank, this is their understanding of how things should rank. I'd call it kind of in line. If the average is 16, it's like, okay, Hrefs thinks this should kind of be where it's at. When we look at the backlinks, though, it definitely should be, near the top, given it trails off so quickly at #3. So, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Average words per sentence, so they're doing longer form sentences in their content, even though their content may not be long form. Referring domains, yeah, they're in the ballpark. So, I can kind of see why they're ranking here, but these off-page things didn't correlate, probably because there's not enough people competing with the off-page factors. So I compared in Ahrefs number 1 with number 2. So we're getting outside of the software, but I just wanted to show you my methodology here. And things got more confusing when looking at this example. So here's the top one is the one I was asked to look at. And we can see that, you know, the backlinks, there's 67 and there's, you know, 1,000 for number 2. 31 domains, 256. I mean, that's just an order of magnitude off, and the traffic isn't there. So, you know, I'm really not sure, but apparently Ahrefs has been taken for a loop by this example as well. So I don't feel too bad, but it still has me thinking that something's going on.
Might have been Marco applying some of his RYS tactics to it or something. Who knows?
Yeah. So as part of my methodology, I decided to see, oh, well, maybe one is a very old site and one is very new. But no, they're both old sites. They're both old enough. So then I started to look at the backlink acquisition. So this is for the website I was asked to look at. They had one link, it's kind of hard to see, but one link acquired in June, one link acquired in July, one link acquired in August. Let's look at what number 2 is doing. Bam. And this does not look natural to me for a pool builder, a local pool builder website. So here you have somebody who's clearly, you know, using Fiverr or drip feed links or XRumor or, you know, PBN system. Something's going on where they consistently are getting links every day, no matter what. You know, that doesn't look natural to me. So I'm suspicious of that. And that's, you know, if they have 1,000 links total and they've been in business for more than 10 years, and this looks like the last 3 months, I'm guessing most of their links are relatively new. They didn't get those, you know, over 10 years. They got them recently. So there might be an issue with link quality. And I went and I looked at some of those links, and some of them were in Russia, and there's definitely some differences in the link quality between the two sites. So I decided to look at it again from a different angle. So this time, instead of looking for pool builders, Memphis, Tennessee, where all 4 of those things were search terms, I decided to look for pool builders. But then I wanted to use the near functionality that would leave the keywords just pool builders, but would localize the results to Memphis. So the search term then becomes pool builders. And then we use the near button in our software to say near Memphis. And so now we don't get Memphis or Tennessee as keyword matches from Google. So they're here, but Google's not calling them out as matches anymore. Just pool builders. And so a much shorter list of keywords. But since it's a shorter tail search term, it's going to be higher competition. It's going to be harder to rank for, more people competing for it. Because now we're searching for pool builders when searched from the context of Memphis, Tennessee. And we get a lot more correlations all of a sudden. And our website, which was number 1, now goes down to number 2. And so we start to see some instant trends here with headings. So heading matches, heading matches, heading matches, heading matches, heading matches, heading matches, right there, heading matches. So a lot of correlations on headings. Leading matches and title tags. So source matches again, so the amount of matches on page.
Can you click on one of those links to show them the like info file from each one of those?
Yeah, let me pull that up. One second while Excel loads. So if we click on the link, it takes us to the documentation for the factor. Talks about match words and the different types of matches. And so each factor has a page like this describing what it is and how it works.
Yeah, thank you. I thought that was important.
And so again, though, we can see that it's deficient, but it got knocked down a spot with higher competition. And that's all I had time to do before the presentation. So that last one, not great info, because I'm not sure really what's going on with that site.
Well, that happens from time to time, you know, the anomalies like that. So
yeah, you know, and it isn't common. You know, I don't see those every day. This is, you know, I saw one when somebody showed me a site that was making use of an exploit, and then I haven't seen one since until now, and seeing this one. So I wonder, you know, what's really going on with this website, what they're doing. It might be a interesting one, like to look at with like Keyword Spy, something like that, where you can see what they're targeting, what they're spending on, and things of that nature.
very good. Well, Ted, that was awesome. There are some questions that have come through, not a whole lot, which I'm really surprised, but there are a few. One from David where he says, David O'Neill says, why are you considering renovation as a Google intentional keyword when it might just be coincident? As far as I know, if Google is showing renovation highlighted, which it was in that one listing, it was also highlighted twice in the title tag itself and then in the meta description. And that's because Google considers that a synonym for remodeling.
Yeah, it's not something I decided. Google decided that.
That's right.
So let's pull that up again. So, you know, I made them yellow so that you could see them, but Google made them bold. And so there's renovation here in the title and down here. I didn't decide renovation was a word. Google said it was a synonym and made it bold. Google said, I'm making the relevant hits bold. See, look how good our search is. Look how relevant they are to the search term you entered. That's what Google's trying to do. And Google said this is a relevant hit to our search term.
Yeah, and if you noticed on the last example with pool builders, I actually took a screenshot of it because I found that to be really interesting. But pool builders was the seed term, and you can see contractors. I saw another. I guess on the second search term, companies was also listed when you did it without the localized results.
Oh, yeah.
It showed company and companies, and I thought that was interesting because those were yes, companies. So it's thinking that companies and builders are synonymous there, which is interesting.
Yeah, and it did construction too for builders.
Yeah. Well, builders and construction makes sense to me, but pool builders and in companies, that's a bit more of a stretch. You know what I mean? And so that's really interesting to see that Google is seeing the relationship between those two words and accurately. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, all right, let's see what other questions we got.
Yeah, before
ahead,
we
Marco.
go on, I think this shit is like the most awesome thing I've ever seen practically.
Thank you.
Because you're getting the top 100 results, and you're correlating everything that's relative as far as Google is concerned, as far as you know, where it applies to rankings. So all you have to do, go in, do your research, match or exceed, and you're going to fucking, they won't see you coming. I mean, I'm stuttering because like I can't find the words to explain how much or how valuable this information is. I've been pulling information left and right. As you know, we're working on RYS Reloaded, and this is crucial because we can pop this into our drive stacks, into our files, folders. iframe it, and just hit it with link building, and watch the fireworks, man. So thank you for coming on again and explaining it again. I have a better understanding now of what's going on. I mean, I had a really good understanding. What people need to know is that you're a math guy. It's not something that you're just guessing at, that you're just throwing up there. I mean, this has a lot of thought. This has just a lot of thought into it. A lot of hours, I bet, of just trying to figure out the math. So thank you, man. This shit it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the important thing, is this is a measurement tool. Like, it seems really complex because of the amount of data that it's bringing back. But if you saw the other video, which might be worth a watch if you're only seeing this video as your introduction, the other video I talk about it is a tape measure. You know, this software is a tape measure, except it's a tape measure that has a button, and it can only measure 520 things. And when you press that button, it automatically measures those 520 things and puts all the measurements in a spreadsheet. That's what's going on here. The statistical correlation is the same math that they've used for decades in baseball and everything else. So that math is settled science. We're just using it as a factor detector. Of these 520 things that are possible factors we can measure, which ones appeared to influence rankings the most? And so we're using that correlation coefficient to say, look at these first. Yeah. And that's all the tool does.
You know, I love the fact that, like, I mean, just right off the bat, just seeing how Google's processing these words and making that, you know, seeing the relationship and identifying that and then bolding it and with your highlights and stuff. I mean, that just changes my perception of keyword density of pages. And what's great about it is just, I mean, run a Cora report and then just pull the match words, that one cell that has all the match words with the, you know, the pipe symbol in between them. And right there, now you've got all the variations for a particular keyword that Google thinks are synonymous with the seed term, that now you can sprinkle through your content so that your keyword density, as it stands for the standard definition, is going to be a lot lower than what most SEOs aim for, right? It's going to be very diluted by their measurement. But yet in Google's eyes, it's very, very relevant because you're sprinkling all those match words through that others that don't have access to this tool would miss.
Correct.
Very powerful. All right, cool. Do we have any other questions?
Yes. No, sorry. Just I have one more thing, because what he's also showing is he's showing the natural language processor at work. We talked about this in a webinar, the natural language processor that Google is using. We took a look, but applying it to entities, how Google is looking at entities, and how the way we see entities and the way that the natural language processor looks at entities is way different. What we're realizing with this is how Google applies the natural language processor to the keyword matches, right? It is different than what we had imagined when we were looking at keyword density. So it goes back to what you just said. We're getting an inside look. I don't know if people realize the power in this, in getting an inside look at the natural language processor and the information that it's feeding the algorithm. Now, it may not be exact. It can't be exact because Ted doesn't have access to Google's algorithm. None of us does. We don't have access to Google's database. But to be able to get a match, for example, or a spyglass like this, where we can approximate and we can see what the top guys are doing and what we're not doing if we're not at the top, and what we could do. I mean, think about this. Think about how valuable that information actually is. You have everything you need right in your hand so that you can start applying, changing, adding, subtracting, whatever the fuck it is you need to do. You just go and do it according to what this is telling you. That this is like a fucking blueprint, man.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, guys, the link, if anybody's interested in purchasing it, I know there was is that same offer that we had for the mastermind available, Ted?
Yes.
Okay. So guys, the link is in the sidebar of the event page, the official site button. So if you look at the details section, that's it there. It's also under masterypr.com/Cora. So you can reach it there. And Ted is giving a 25% discount. Also, I want to mention, if anybody didn't see the webinar that we did with Ted that was for our mastermind, I don't know if that went out publicly or not, but we can make that public, the beginning part of it. And what we'll probably do is just throw them into a playlist and email out the playlist as the replay. So you guys can check out both of them, because Ted went into a lot more detail as far as like the setup and stuff, and demoing how to use the software in the first webinar that we did. So we'll be happy to show that. But also, Ted, do you want to talk about, some of the ways maybe perhaps that, you've got some subscribers or users of your tool and kind of things that they do with it?
Yeah, right off the top, there's a number of agencies that use the software to generate reports that they then turn around and sell to their clients. And I'm all for that. If you want to generate reports and sell them to people, that's why the tool exists. So please do that. Please make money.
That's what the fuck I'm talking about, man. Make some fucking money.
Yeah, there are some customers that only use the software for 1 or 2 months. It's a monthly subscription, and they tend to be like in-house and small businesses, or just independent SEOs who use it on a project by project basis, and that's perfectly fine. You can get it for a month, run 1,000 queries, run 1,000 keywords, and then cancel the subscription, come back, 6 months later, do it again. That's perfectly fine.
That's awesome, Ted, by the way. That's really cool.
And yeah, I thought that was awesome on your part. And what was most awesome is that if they come back, you said that the discount will still be available, right?
Only for your members.
Right. No, but I thought that was, I mean, it's beyond generous to make. You buy it with the discount, you go away, you come back, you buy it, and you get a discount.
Yeah.
What the fuck could be better?
Yeah. So you can get it, run all your reports, guys, and then go do the tuning, as Ted calls it, for a few months, and then come back, do it again if that's what's required. And here's the thing. I mean, for the price that he's got on that special offer, that's dirt cheap. If you ran reports for, say, 10 clients and then sold the reports to the clients, it's like $50 each, and that's dirt cheap. I'd sell it for a lot more. But I mean, you'd make 3 times your money on just generating the reports and then explaining what what type of tuning and stuff is required to get them to start showing improvement. So
yeah, and just FYI, if you're wondering what the cost of a report can actually go for, I sell them, 2-3 a week off my website for $100, and I just run 10 up to 10 keywords for somebody, and here's your data. No processing, just the files.
gotcha.
So, and I think I don't charge anywhere near enough for that.
Yeah. Well, and remember, you're selling the reports to SEOs, but when you're so that's like wholesale. When you sell them retail to an end user, a client, you can mark them way up. So
Well, and actually, I'm planning to shut that service offering down. So there's going to be a need for people to pick that up. I want to be in the software business.
right, got you.
But coming around the corner, Bora SEO software. It's Cora for Bing.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you mentioned that on the mastermind webinar. So that's
Yeah,
going to be awesome, because I don't know of any other tool out there that does like optimization, suggestions for Bing. So
yeah, and the data is already fascinating. It's in closed beta right now, but one of your members has a copy, Clint. It's in closed beta. We're working out all the issues. But what's so fascinating is that backlinks don't correlate in Bing because of the PageRank patent. Google would sue the heck out of Microsoft if they violated that patent. So Microsoft obviously has to work a completely different way than Google does. And the data shows that. It couldn't be more obvious and apparent. So
it's all on page, is what you're saying?
It looks all on page, and it's very interesting what they focus in on. It's a very different beast and a different formula.
That's awesome. I'm anxious to see that when it comes out as well. So, all right, guys. Well, it looks like we don't have any other questions on the page. At least I don't think we do. Marco, did you see any that I'm not seeing?
No, I'm not seeing any.
Okay.
And sorry for dropping so many F-bombs, but I get excited and it just happens.
I like it. You're passionate about it. I am too. So
that's awesome. Well, thanks again, Ted. We certainly appreciate you coming on a second time. And like I said, we're going to go ahead and make the one that you did with us for the mastermind member as part of like the replay bundle. We'll send out to everybody so that more people get exposed to this, because I do think it's valuable. And I'm actually surprised that we didn't have more people jump on it originally. And so, hopefully we'll get some more people interested in this, guys, because this will set you apart from your competitors. They don't have data like this. So they're kind of flying by all the traditional SEO knowledge that we know about 80% of is BS. So it's good to have these to be able to, it show empirical evidence of that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, the first 10 members that ask you guys for an example keyword, I'll run the files for you. Send them to you.
Well, there you go.
First 10.
The first 10. So right on the event page, huh?
Yep.
Okay, guys. So you got it. We'll send them over put them on the event page. Anybody wants to report run, there's 10 of them. That's what he said he'd do. That's awesome. Again, Ted, thank you for that. So put them on the event page, and I'll make sure. Well, you should have the link, Ted. But if you don't, I'll shoot you an email with the keywords.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again, man. We really appreciate your time today. And everybody take advantage of it when you get a chance. Is there training on using the software? Yes. He's got help files and training files for everything.
Video tutorials. It'll take you an hour and a half to get through all of them.
Yep. So, all right. Once again, thanks, Ted. We really appreciate your time today. And anybody has any questions, just reach out to us. Let us know. Okay, guys.